Hey folks, it's Who's of Doom. This video is about the Freeguild models that I'm going to be working on and painting in the coming months. So basically, I started collecting, I guess, Empire back in 2006. So it's definitely not my oldest army, but it's definitely kind of an older army. Definitely a lot of older components that need to kind of get worked on, and I'm kind of thrilled to kind of move through them now and you know get some progress in getting all these unpainted armies finished, because I'll be largely free most of January and probably a good portion of 2017. I plan on doing a lot of painting and getting a lot done. I really want to kind of surprise you guys and get like an astronomically large amount of models finished at the beginning of 2017. That's kind of the plan. Um, and because I really do want to move on. As much as I like these projects, I want to do so many more. So I'm going to try to really push and paint fairly regularly every day for some amount. So first off, I'm as per my army design video that I finished, I guess, a week or so ago. I do have some extra kits coming in the mail, um, but like Outriders and a few other expansions that I'll talk about a bit. But one of those is Demigriff Knights. Now I did get one box for Christmas. A few more are on the way. Um, as you probably saw in the army design video, I'm going to really try to put some emphasis on these Demigriffs. I think they look really cool. And I'm really looking forward to getting them out. And I bought some round bases for them, so they'll be matching the rest of the army. And then earlier in 2016, I got two of these boxes of great swords, pretty cheap on eBay, and one is the new box, the plastic, and then one is the old metal ones. But I'm very much a model collector. I love having both kind of newer and older models in my collection. So I'm very happy to have both, and I think they're going to look really cool and get to work on those banners and get some freehand. This paint scheme that you see on these great swords, this is pretty much what I'm going for, but I'll talk about that in a little bit later in this video. So among the existing models that I have within the collection, and this is specifically the Freeguild component. So when I started collecting Empire in 2006, like I have a steam tank and a few other things, but that won't be part of this project. This is purely the existing Freeguild component as determined in the new armies in AoS. So I have an old Griffin or Empire General on Griffin. This is the one that came out in like the early 2000s. Definitely not the new plastic kit. It's a much smaller, like little Griffin, but he's still kind of a cool model. He's all metal, but I think he's going to be great to kind of finally get painted and put him together and use him. And I actually kind of like that he's a bit smaller of a footprint too. I think that'll work well with the demigriffs. And then I have a bunch of old handgunners. So most of these infantry models that I own are really from, I think it was the 5th edition fantasy starter set, the one that was Empire and Orcs. The one that followed, I guess, the Bretonnian and Lizardmen 4th edition box. So they're very static posing. But it'd be good to kind of get these out and get them finished. Obviously, after having them for so long. Now, one thing that if you watched the army design video, then there's a degree of like the command for the handgunners is essential. Um, Not just because like the champion has a cool weapon with longer range and does more damage, and the banner is obviously useful. Mostly the musician. The musician is like that key component that when someone charges, you get one round to shoot at the unit that's charging, and that is obviously really handy. So I went ahead and I ordered 2 boxes of handgunners to add on to this because I want 2 units of handgunners, so that would give me the command. I also only have 31 of these old handgunners, and my planned army list calls for 2 units of 20. So I'll have a few extra, but that's fine. I'll paint it all up. Everything will get done. But it will give me that option to have the full commands. And then I have, these are old Spearmen, again from the same 5th edition starter box. Again, these guys did not have a command. And I think there's about 31 of these as well. So what I've done is I had some extra bits. I actually had one extra Spearman that had the shield but not a spear. And so I took him away. I basically gave the shield on, and I basically created a champion out of some extra bits I had. And I'll give the champion of the unit the shield that was on the extra Spearman, so that he kind of matches. So I hope that it won't look completely out of place when the unit's finished, but that will give them again like a full command and make them a little bit more useful. I don't have any plans to really use this unit necessarily in my standard 2,000 point Freeguild list, but if I'm playing a bit larger force or something like that, I'll definitely throw them in. So about 2012 or something like that, I bought a bunch of more Empire, so that's when I got like the steam tank, and like most of the Empire that I had in 2006 was the components from these early starter boxes. But half a dozen years later, I did pick up some more Empire, and basically, I picked up like a steam tank and a couple wizards and stuff like that. But I also picked up a unit of these melee guys with the hand weapon and shield, and I had 20 others that were equipped with halberds. Um, but I decided, based upon the new rules, to kind of switch them out. And so I've since converted my halberds back into hand weapon and shield guys. I think they're probably the best of the Freeguild guard in terms of equipment wise. But I think that they will be good. So that's a good chunk of like little infantry to kind of run and hold objectives, and these guys will all get rebased onto rounds. I actually sold off all the remaining Freeguild bits I had, so kind of no longer needed. That's kind of one of the things I'm trying to do with these projects, because I have so many bits from so many years, like buckets and buckets of bits, and I'm kind of going through, I'm making what I can out of them. I'm saving like a few really cool bits and bobs that I'll be using for conversions, but I have like just a lot of just generic parts that I don't really see much practical use for. I can't bring myself just to throw them out, so I'm kind of putting them on eBay and switching them off. And then I got a few extra little components here. So this is like the old standard bearer. He's basically now a Freeguild general with war banner. I talked a little bit about the war banner in the army design video. Again, he has what used to be called like the eagle banner, which actually fits really well in this army because I'm having so many birds everywhere, with between having the general on the Griffin and then a number of a demigriff knight. So this is actually kind of a cool little aesthetic. And on the other if you uh, flip the guy over, then on the other side of the banner it's like an iron cross. I kind of like it when they have like the banners with the molded features, because it's just so much easier for me to paint. Freehand terrifies me to death, but I will have to do a little bit on those great swords. And then I have 2 generic guys on horse. These are, I definitely, I think like the Freeguild, a general on Warhorse that you can buy directly from Games Workshop, looks really cool, much better than these guys. These are When you got the fifth edition starter box, they came with like this little hero, and I guess he's like an Empire hero back in the day. I made one with extra bits to have two ranged weapons, and then the other guy with a sword and shield. He'll probably be the general of the army. I'll paint them up; they'll look cool in the end. Rebase them and such. It's all good. So now that you know what models are that I have and the ones that are coming, so that apart from more demigryphs, some Empire handgunners, there's also a box of Outriders that will be completing the army list that I talked about in the army design video for Freeguild. So now it's mostly a decision of how to paint them. As I said, I'm kind of looking at that white and red paint scheme on the greatswords. I just think that's a very crisp and clean paint scheme. It is basically based on the old world, all right, the old Empire paint schemes. We haven't really seen everything I've seen painted in Age of Sigmar that involves the Freeguild is kind of like the old models that they were using for 8th that have just been basically rebased. So I don't really know where to go with like a new and different paint scheme. I'm happy to use the older ones though. And the truth is that there was so much variety in the old Empire paint schemes that it's kind of difficult to think of something new that hasn't already been done to some extent. So I picked up several years ago the Empire Uniforms book. It basically goes through all the different provinces of the Empire and then shows all the different paint schemes. So just kind of give you a sense. So if you wanted to paint something according to this particular province, it kind of gives you the sense. They've been using more of these illustrations in more recent books. This is where they started to kind of use them. They came out with another book like this for High Elves several years ago as well. But I would prefer pictures of models, but you can kind of definitely get a good sense of how they're supposed to be painted, and there's lots of models that have been painted in that red and white paint scheme. So that red and white paint scheme is basically for Reichland, like so. And Reichland, I think, is kind of appropriate because it's the province where Higmar was born and kind of where he originated and was from. So it kind of fits with AoS fairly well. I like that color pattern between like the red and the white, and sometimes they have like a red arm on one side and a white on the other, and they kind of alternate. There's a lot of variations on how to kind of do it, but I think I have a good sense of how to do it. Now the demigryphs might be a little bit different. You can definitely paint them up, however you want, but I'm kind of looking at either the Reichsguard, which would very much fit with that red and white from Reichland, or Knights of the Blazing Sun, which are these black ones, black and yellow ones, because a lot of the molded kind of icons on the armor of the demigryph kind of fit that motif of the Blazing Sun. That would work well. Now, I don't know if I want the demigryphs to look like a distinctly different part of the army compared to the rank and file, or not, or if it should look like a very much a uniform force. In the old Empire, the state troops were kind of based upon what province you're from, and then the knightly orders were completely different because they're based upon independent orders of knights. So I don't know if I want something like that or if a more uniform look. But either case, I will be painting Freeguild very soon. And you will see Freeguild armies or Freeguild models finished in January. Right now I'm working on some Cadians, and I'm going to kind of alternate between the two projects. Working on 35 Cadian conscripts. When those are finished, I'll switch over, do unit Freeguild, switch back to Cadians, and kind of alternate. So look forward to some showcase models later in January. Have a good one.